Good morning. Today we will start with boiling and condensation. We know from thermodynamics that when the temperature of a liquid at a specific pressure is raised to the saturation temperature T saturation, at that pressure boiling occurs. Likewise, when the temperature of vapor is lowered to T saturation, condensation occurs. In this chapter we study the rate of heat transfer during such liquid to vapor and vapor to liquid phase transformations. Although boiling and condensation exhibit some unique features, they are considered to be forms of convective heat transfer since they involve fluid motion, such as rise of the bubbles to the top and the flow of condensate to bottom. Boiling and condensation differ from other forms of convection in that they depend on latent heat of vaporization HFG of the fluid and surface tension sigma at the liquid vapor interface in addition to the properties of the fluid in each phase. So noting that under equilibrium condition the temperature remains constant during a phase change process at a fixed pressure, large amount of heat due to large latent heat of vaporization released or absorbed can be transferred during boiling and condensation, essentially at constant temperature. So in usually, however, it is necessary to maintain some difference between surface temperature, that is Ts, and T saturation for effective heat transfer. Heat transfer coefficient H associated with boiling and condensation are typically much higher than those encountered in other forms of convection process that involve a single phase. We start this chapter with the discussion of boiling curve, pre-convection boiling, nucleate boiling and film boiling. Also we discuss about the drawwise condensation and film-wise condensation. Boiling heat transfer. Many heat transfer involve condensation and boiling. In household refrigerator, for example, the refrigerant absorbs heat from the refrigerator space by boiling in evaporator section and injects heat to the kitchen air by condensing in the condenser section. Also in steam power plants, heat is transferred to the steam in boiler where water is vaporized and the waste heat is rejected from the steam in the condenser where the steam is condensed. Some electronic component is cooled by boiling by immersing them in liquid fluid with an appropriate boiling temperature. Boiling is liquid to vapor phase change process just like evaporation, but evaporation differs from boiling. Evaporation occurs at the liquid vapor interface when the vapor pressure is less than the saturation pressure of liquid at a given temperature. Water in lake at 20 degrees Celsius, for example, will evaporate to air at 20 degrees Celsius and 60% relative humidity, since the saturation pressure of water at 20 degrees Celsius is 2.3 kilopascal and the vapor pressure of air is at 20 degrees Celsius and 60% relative humidity is 1.4 kilopascal. Other examples of evaporation are the drying of cloths, fruits, vegetables, and evaporation of sweet to cool the human body. Boiling, on other hand, occurs at the solid and liquid interface when liquid is brought into contact with the surface maintained at a temperature T surface above the saturation temperature of liquid. At 1 atmosphere, water will boil at 100 degrees Celsius. So if this surface is maintained at 110 degrees Celsius, then liquid will start to boil. The boiling process is characterized by the rapid formation of vapor bubbles at solid and liquid interface. The vapor detach from the surface when they reach a certain size and attempt to rise to the free surface of the liquid. When cooking, we do not say water is boiling until we see bubbles rising at the top. Boiling is a complicated phenomenon because of large number of variables involved. As a form of convection heat transfer, the boiling heat flux from a solid surface to fluid is expressed by Newton's law of cooling, which is Q boiling is equal to H into Ts minus T saturation, H T delta X excess. So this excess temperature is called Ts minus T saturation, which represents the excess of surface above the saturation temperature of fluid. So the analysis of the boiling include the properties of two-phase fluid. One is your liquid, another is your gaseous phase. So we have to include the properties of both. Another term which we had to include, that is HFG, which is latent heat of vaporization, and sigma, the surface tension. HFG represents the energy absorbed as a unit mass of liquid vaporized at a specific temperature or pressure, and is the primary quantity of energy transferred during boiling heat transfer. The HFG values of water at various temperatures are given. Bubbles are due to the surface tension at the liquid vapor interface due to attraction force on molecules at the interface toward the liquid phase. At critical pressure, the surface temperature decreases and becomes zero. That's why no bubbles are formed during boiling at supercritical pressure and temperature. The boiling process in practice do not occur under equilibrium condition, and normally the bubbles are not in thermodynamic equilibrium with surroundings liquid. That is, the temperature and pressure of the vapor in the bubble are usually different than those of liquid. The pressure difference between the liquid and vapor is balanced by the surface tension at the interface. The temperature between the vapor and bubble and the surrounding liquid is the driving force for heat transfer between the two phases. When the liquid is at lower temperature, then the bubble heat will transfer from the bubble to the liquid, causing some more vapor inside the bubble to condense and bubble will collapse. Boiling is classified as a pool boiling or flow boiling depending on the presence of bulk fluid motion. Boiling is called pool boiling in the absence of bulk fluid motion, and flow boiling in the presence of it. In pool boiling, the fluid is stationary and any motion of the fluid is due to natural convection currents, while in the flow boiling, the fluid is forced to flow in a heated pipe over a surface by external means such as pump, and heat is supplied from the pipe. Therefore, flow boiling is always accompanied by other convection effects. Pool and flow boiling are further classified into subcooled boiling and saturated boiling. In subcooled boiling, when the temperature of the main body of the liquid is below than the saturation temperature, means this temperature is lower, then it is called pool boiling. So in this case, at early stage of boiling, the bubbles are confined to the narrow region near the hot surface. These bubbles is formed here, and as they will grow and they will move to the upper side, they will lose their heat to the surrounding cold liquid and their size will decrease and they will collapse. It means the bubble won't able to come at the surface. While on the other hand, in the saturated boiling, when your temperature of the surrounding liquid will be at the 100 degrees Celsius, in that case, if bubble will move from surface, if they move up, they won't lose heat to the surrounding medium and bubble will able to go to the surface. So we can see bubble throughout the bulk of the liquid here in this case. So the boiling, this is called bulk or saturated boiling. Boiling regimes and boiling curve. The pioneering work on boiling was done in 1934. Who used electrically heated nichrome and platinum wires immersed in liquids in experiments. Nukiyama noticed that boiling takes different forms depending on the value of excess temperature, where del excess is equal to the temperature between the surface and the water. So here in case of natural convection, del excess is less. In case of nuclear boiling, del excess decrease further. In case of transition boiling, del x is further increased, and the maximum del xx is in case of film boiling. So these regimes are illustrated on the boiling curve. So this is curve between heat flux and excess temperature. So this region is called natural convection boiling. This is called nuclear region from A to C. From C to D is your transition region, and D to E is your film boiling. Natural convection boiling from this point to A point. So we know from thermodynamics that pure substance at a specific pressure starts boiling when it reaches the saturation temperature, In case of water at atmosphere pressure, say it is 100 degrees Celsius, but in practice it is not so. We don't see any bubbles forming on the heating surface until liquid is heated a few degree above the saturation temperature, means from 2 degree to 6 degree in case of water. So therefore liquid is slightly superheated in this case and evaporates when ice rises to free surface. The fluid motion in this mode of boiling is governed by natural convection currents. Nucleus boiling, this is from point A to C is your nucleate boiling. In the nucleate boiling, bubbles will start to appear in the liquid. The nucleate boiling regime can be separated into two distinct regions. In region A and B, isolated bubbles are formed at various preferential nucleation sites on the heated surface. So this is where bubble will form, but they will collapse in the liquid. The space vacated by the rising process is repeated. The stirring and agitation caused by the entrainment of the liquid of the heater surface is primarily responsible for increased heat transfer coefficient and heat flux in this region of nucleate boiling. In region B to C, the heater temperature is further increased and bubbles form at such a great rate at such a large number of nucleation sites that they form numerous continuous columns of vapor in the liquid. These bubbles move all way up to the surface where they break up and release their vapor content. The large heat flux obtained in this region are caused by combined effect of liquid entrainment and evaporation. So in this from B to C, your heat transfer will increase. So this is the maximum critical heat flux at point C. The excess temperature in this case is between 10 to 30 degree. This T excess between temperature of surface and saturation liquid. So in this stage, the rate of evaporation at heater surface is so high that large fraction of heater surface is covered by bubbles, making it difficult for the liquid to reach the heater surface and wet it. Consequently, the heat flux increase at a lower rate with increasing delta T excess because of less heat transfer in case of gaseous medium as compared to liquid medium. For water, the critical heat flux exceeds 1 megawatt per meter square. So this is the maximum critical heat flux, which is 10 raised to power 6 watt per meter square. So in transition boiling, this region, the heat transfer capacities start to decrease because of the formation of this vapor pockets at the surface, which will decrease the further heat transfer. So this is because a large fraction of heater surface is covered by vapor film, which acts as an insulation due to the low thermal conductivity of vapor relative to the liquid. In transition boiling regime, both nucleate and film boiling partially occur. So in transition phase, it is partially your film boiling. You can see this is the film on the surface and partially the liquid boiling. Film boiling, this is beyond point C. So beyond point C, D is your film boiling from D to E, and this point is called Landerfrost point. So at this point, your heat flux is minimum. In this region, heater surface is completely covered by continuous stable vapor film. So this region, you can say your surface is completely covered with the vapor region. This is called vapor film, and this will occur when your temperature excess is beyond 120 degrees Celsius. In case of water at 1 atmosphere pressure, the presence of vapor film between the heater surface and the liquid is responsible for the low heat transfer rates. In film boiling, the heat transfer rate further increase with the increasing excess temperature as a result of heat transfer from heated surface to liquid through vapor film by radiation. So beyond D point, the film will be found between surface and the liquid. So the heat transfer still further increasing. The reason for this is that at higher temperature, the heat transfer is due to the radiation between the surface and the liquid, because radiation can pass through the gaseous medium. So between this surface and this liquid, radiation will start from surface, heating surface, radiation will be transferred to this liquid surface. So due to which, as you further increase the temperature,
If you further exceed temperature excess beyond this point, the radiation will come to play, which cause the heat flux to increase. So this diagram is showing the film boiling in case of 1 centimeter diameter. The methanol is boiling on the Cooper tube. Here in this case it is showing the transition phase of boiling in case of methanol, and this diagram shows the nucleate boiling in case of methanol on the copper heater. So if typical boiling process not follow the boiling curve beyond point C as observed in experiment, so you can see in the actual case there is a sudden jump in temperature. So Nukiyama noticed with surprise that when the power applied to the nichrome wire immersed in water exceed this Q maximum even slightly, means corresponding to this Q maximum, if you further increase little power, the wire temperature increase suddenly to the melting point of the wire. So there is a sudden jump in the temperature of the wire and burnout occurs beyond his control. So when he repeated the experiment with platinum wire, which has much higher melting point, he was able to avoid the burnout of the wire and maintain heat flux higher than Q maximum. So this heat flux is due to the higher melting point wire, which is platinum. And when he cooled the same, when he reversed the process, cooled the process, so this path is followed and he reached a Q minimum. Note that the boiling process cannot follow the transition boiling part of the boiling curve past the C, means this phase is bypassed during the boiling, but during cooling he observed a sudden decrease in temperature at Q minimum. So Q minimum is achieved when you cool the heater or you decrease the power of the heater. So Q minimum is correspond to the minimum heat flux, and if you further decrease the power, there is a sudden decrease in the temperature of the heating element, that is sudden drop in temperature. So this is the actual profile. The burnout phenomena in the boiling can be explained as follows. In order to move beyond point C where Q maximum occurs, so this is the Q maximum. So if you want to move beyond point C, we must increase the heater surface temperature Ts. If you have to move beyond point C, you have to increase the heater surface temperature Ts. So to increase the surface temperature, however, we must increase the heat flux, but the fluid cannot receive this increased energy at an excess temperature just beyond point C. Therefore, the heater surface ends up absorbing the increased energy, causing the heater surface temperature Ts to rise, but the fluid can receive even less energy as the increased excess temperature, means fluid won't receive this energy. If you increase, even after the increase of surface temperature, the energy is not received by the fluid. So this continues further and this will lead to a point E, which is the surface temperature. So E is very large, high temperature of the surface. This point E on the boiling curve, which correspond to very high surface temperature. Therefore, any attempt to increase heat flux beyond Q maximum will cause the operation point on the boiling curve to jump suddenly from C to point E. It means your heater temperature will suddenly increase from C to E because of heat not being transferred to the fluid and the whole energy absorbed by the heater. So this E point is beyond the melting point of most heater materials and burnout will occur. The most heater material melting point lie below the E point, which is this point. So therefore C on the boiling curve is also called the burnout point, and the heat flux at this point, the burnout heat flux. Most boiling heat transfer equipment in practice operate slightly below Q maximum to avoid any distorted burnout. However, in cryogenics applications, it is not so the case. Heat transfer correlation in pool boiling. Boiling regime discuss about different considerably in their character, and thus different heat transfer relations need to be used for different boiling regimes. Natural convection boiling regime.
Boiling is governed by natural convection currents, and heat transfer rates in this case can be determined accurately using natural convection relations. In case of nucleate boiling, so this is the correlation here, which is due to the experimental data, where Q is nucleate boiling, mu F is your, this is viscosity of liquid, HFG enthalpy of vaporization, gravity, density of liquid, density of vapor, Cp is your specific heat, SF your experimental constant that depends on surface fluid combination, Prandtl number. So this table here shows the CSF value and your N values, which is a combination of your surface and liquid, water computer combination, polished surface, then your water stainless and water brass, nickel, platinum. So the value of CSF can be used for any geometry since it is found the rate of heat transfer during nucleate boiling is essentially independent of the geometry and orientation of the heat surface. So this equation is also called Roshanov equation. This equation is valid for clean and relatively smooth surfaces. So this equation also has a factor, that is enthalpy of vaporization, HFG, in the denominator. It means if your HFG value increase, so this will decrease, or vice versa. Recall from thermodynamics that enthalpy of vaporization HFG of a pure substance decreases with increasing pressure and reaches zero at critical point. So noting that HFG appears in denominator of the equation, we should see significant rise in rate of heat transfer at higher pressure during nucleate boiling. Peak heat flux, this is the peak heat flux or burnout point correspond to this heat flux. So we must have the knowledge of the maximum heat flux for the design of the heating element in order to avoid the danger of burnout. The maximum of critical heat flux in nucleate pool boiling was determined theoretically by this equation, that is where CCR is constant whose value depends on heater geometry, HFG your enthalpy of vaporization, this is surface tension, density of vapor and density of liquid. This value is given mostly 0.15 in this case. So specific value of CCR for different heater geometries are listed in table. So this is value of coefficient CCR for maximum heat flux. Heater geometry, it depends on the geometry of heater, and this is your corresponding value. Where your L star is your dimensionless parameter, it depends on this value, and these values are for this range. Characteristic dimension of heater, which is L. Note that density of vapor in this equation increase, but surface tension and HFC decrease with increasing pressure, and thus the change in Q maximum with pressure depends on which effect dominates. The experimental studies show that this Q maximum increase with pressure up to about 1/3 of critical pressure and then start to decrease and become zero at critical pressure. Minimum heat flux which occurs at Leydenstrom point is of practical interest. So this point, because at this point your film boiling start to occur. So this point corresponding heat flux we have to find out. Using the stability theory, Zuber derived the following expression for the minimum heat flux for a large horizontal plane, which is given by Q minimum is equal to this, where symbols have their use and meaning. Film boiling, using an analysis similar to Nusselt theory on film-wise condensation present in next section, Bromley developed a theory for the prediction of heat flux for stable film boiling on the outside of a horizontal cylinder. The heat flux for film boiling on a horizontal cylinder or sphere of diameter d is given by this value, where C film depends on the type of geometry. For horizontal cylinder it is 0.62 and for sphere it is 0.67. Now here we had used the latent heat of vaporization, which is modified one. So this is because to count the heat transfer associated with superheating of vapor, because we are using superheating
vapor here. So this is your vapor region. So we have to count for this correction factor here, which is your heat transfer associated with superheating of vapor. The vapor properties are evaluated at a film temperature given by surface temperature plus saturation temperature, its average, which is the average temperature of vapor film. The liquid properties and HFG are to be evaluated at a saturation temperature at a specified pressure. Again, the relation will give film boiling heat flux in watt per meter square. At high surface temperature of typically above 300, heat transfer across the vapor film by radiation becomes significant. So there is a heat transfer by radiation as well as by film boiling. So the radiation heat transfer can be given by this relation. Q radiation is equal to sigma emissivity into surface temperature minus saturation temperature of liquid. So you may tempted to simply add the convection radiation heat transfer, means this radiation plus convection, to get the total heat transfer. But this is not so. The actual heat transfer is equal to film plus 3/4 of radiation heat transfer.
Enhancement of heat transfer in pool boiling. The pool boiling heat transfer relations given above applies to smooth surface. Below we will discuss some methods to enhance heat transfer in pool boiling. The cavities on the rough surface act as a nucleation site and enhance boiling heat transfer. So we pointed earlier that the rate of heat transfer in liquid boiling regime strongly depends on number of active nucleation sites on the surface and the rate of bubble formation at each site. Therefore, any modification that will enhance nucleation on heating surface will also enhance the heat transfer in liquid boiling. Irregularities on the heating surface, including roughness and dirt, serve as additional nucleate sites during boiling. Burness has shown that the heat flux in nucleate boiling regime can be increased by a factor of 10 by roughening the heating surface. However, these high heat transfer rates cannot be sustained for long, since the effect of surface roughness is abrupt to decay with time and the heat flux drop eventually to values accounted on a smooth surface. Enhancement in nucleation and thus heat transfer in such special surface is achieved by coating the surface with thin layer which is less than 1 mm of very porous material, or forming cavities on the surface mechanical to facilitate continuous vapor formation. Such surfaces are reported to enhance heat transfer by up to factor of 10 and a critical flux by up to factor of 3. The enhancement provided by one such material prepared by machining roughening, the thermoaxial E, is shown in figure. You can see this material thermoaxial E. In this case, heat transfer is more as compared to the finned and plain tube. Water is boiled at atmospheric pressure by a horizontal polished copper heating element of diameter 5 mm. Emissivity is given. The surface temperature of heating wire is 350 degrees Celsius. Determine the rate of heat transfer from the wire to the water per unit length of wire. The properties of water at saturation temperature of 100 degrees Celsius are given, and for film temperature it is saturation plus surface temperature, which is 100 plus 350 here is equal to 225 degrees Celsius. So correspond to 225 degrees Celsius. These properties are given here. The exact temperature in this case, which is Ts minus T saturation, is 250, which is much larger than 30 degree for water. So exact temperature is 250 in our case. So it lies between this region. So this is the case of film boiling. So we use this relation. So find the heat transfer in case of film boiling, which is this. The radiation heat transfer is dependent on this relation. So Ts is 250, T saturation is 100. Convert it into Kelvin, you will get this. We know total heat transfer is the film plus 3/4 of radiation. So this is your total heat flux here, and you multiply when the heater area, which is pi dl in this case, is equal to 933 watt. The pool boiling was considered so far involves pool of seemingly motionless liquid, but vapor bubbles rising to the top as a result of buoyancy effects. In flow boiling,
the fluid is forced to move by external source such as a pump. It undergoes a phase change process. The boiling in this case exhibits the combined effect of convection and pool boiling. The flow boiling is also classified either external or internal flow boiling depending on whether the fluid is forced to flow over heated surface or inside the heated surface. So external flow boiling over a plate or cylinder is similar to pool boiling, but the added motion increase both the nucleate boiling and heat flux and critical heat flux considerably. You can see this is your free convection. So in this case, this is your nucleate pool boiling regime, starts from here. In case of you had the velocity, this is your low velocity profile. You can see in this case heat flux is more as compared to the free convection, and with increase in the velocity the heat flux will increase, so the heat transfer. So in experiments with water, critical heat flux values as high as 35 megawatt per meter square have been obtained compared to the pool boiling, which is 1 megawatt per meter square at 1 atmosphere pressure. This shows the heat transfer coefficient as you move into the tube. In case of internal flow boiling, we have this regime: forced convection, then bubbly flow, in which vapors start to form near the surface, then they will start to form and they will occupy the inner tube surface. This is slug flow, then your annular flow, then transition flow, then your mist flow, and in your forced convection, here your complete vapor will be formed. Initially the liquid is subcooled and heat transfer to liquid is by forced convection. So this is your forced convection. Water is flowing, your heat transfer to the liquid is by forced convection here. Then bubbles start forming on the inner surface of the tube, and detached bubbles are drafted into the main stream. So at the surface bubbles start to form and they will detach and they will come into the main stream, means at the center of the tube. This regime is called bubbly flow regime. As the fluid is heated further, the bubbles grow in size and eventually collapse into slugs of vapor. Up to half of the volume in the tube in the slug flow regime is occupied by vapor. So up to half the volume of this tube will be occupied with the vapors in the slug flow. Up to half of the volume in the tube in this slug flow regime is occupied by vapor. So this here. This is annular flow regime, and very high heat transfer coefficient lies in this regime. As the heating continues, the annular liquid layer gets thinner and thinner, and eventually dry spots start to appear on the inner surface of tube. The appearance of dry spot is accompanied by a sharp decrease in heat transfer coefficient. You can see there is a sharp decrease in heat transfer coefficient at this flow. So this is your transition regime, which will continue until the inner surface of tube is completely dry. So here your will complete tube is fully contain vapor only. So any liquid at this moment is in the form of droplets suspended in vapor. So these are small droplets which resembles a mist. So this is called mist flow regime. At the end of mist flow regime, we have saturated vapor which becomes superheated with any further heat transfer. So this is your only saturated vapor here. Condensation heat transfer. Condensation occurs when the temperature of a vapor is reduced below its saturation temperature. This is usually done by bringing the vapor into contact with solid surface whose temperature Ts, surface temperature, is below the saturation temperature of the vapor. But condensation can also occur on the free surface of a liquid or even in a gas when the temperature of liquid or the gas to which the vapor is exposed is below T saturation. The example of condensation is also in case of air the form of mist. Because of the less temperature of air, the water which is in the vapor form will form mist and condense. In the latter case, the liquid droplets suspended in the gas form a fog. In this chapter we will consider condensation on solid surface only. Two distinct forms of condensation are observed: film-wise condensation and drop-wise condensation. In film-wise condensation, the condensate wets the surface and forms a liquid film on the surface that slides down under the influence of gravity. The thickness of this liquid film increases in the flow direction as more vapor condenses on the film. In dropwise condensation, the condensed vapor forms the droplets on the surface instead of continuous film, and the surface is covered by countless drops, and when the drops grow in size, they will move downward under the influence of gravity. In the film condensation, the surface is blanketed by a liquid film increasing the thickness, and this thickness will act as a resistance to the heat transfer. The heat of vaporization HFG released as a vapor condense must pass through this film and for the further condensation of the liquid. So this film while condensation is not a desirable mode of condensation. Dropwise condensation is preferred. It is found that the heat transfer is more 10 times by as compared to the film condensation. So dropwise condensation is preferred mode of condensation. Film condensation. We now consider film condensation on vertical plate. This is your vertical plate here. This is x direction and this is y direction. So this plate is cold, means temperature of this plate is less, which is Ts, surface temperature. The liquid film starts forming at the top of the plate and flows downward under the influence of gravity. The thickness of plate film, which is delta, this thickness, the thickness of film delta increase in the flow direction because of continued condensation at liquid vapor interface. Heat in amount of HFG, the latent vaporization is released during condensation and is transferred through this film to the plate surface. Note that Ts must be below the saturation temperature of the vapor for condensation to occur. This is temperature profile and this is velocity profile. This is the no slip condition just at the above the surface plate. So this is no slip condition where velocity is 0 and it will increase and it is maximum at the your gas and liquid interface. The temperature of condensate is T saturation and it decreases to the wall temperature. This is the temperature profile. Heat transfer in condensation also depends on whether the condensate flow is laminar or turbulent. So we have to find Rayleigh number, and for Rayleigh number we have to find the hydraulic diameter and your perimeter and cross section area. So perimeter is wetted perimeter of condensate and cross section area is equal to wetted perimeter and film thickness. In this case of flat plate of L length, you can see here perimeter will consider L. Area of cross section is equal to this length into this film thickness, which is equal to delta. So you can see the cross section area is taken this one and the perimeter is taken this one, which is analogous to the flow of liquid in a tube, rectangular tube. In case of vertical cylinder, we will take perimeter is equal to pi d, this perimeter, and cross section area we will take this cross section area, this one, which is your perimeter into delta thickness. This is also analogous to annus flow in case of concentric tubes. Now in case of horizontal cylinder, there are two surfaces, one on this side, one on that side. So we have to take this cross section area, which is length of the cylinder, into thickness, which is delta. So here cross section area will come 2 length into delta. Hydraulic diameter will come 4 AC by perimeter, which is equal to 4 delta. Now Rayleigh number is equal to hydraulic diameter into density of liquid into volume velocity of liquid. Velocity of liquid is at this cross section area divided by viscosity. Put the value of hydraulic diameter, which is equal to 4 AC upon P. You will get this relation. Now this factor is called mass flow rate, which is density into velocity into cross section area, which is mass rate of condensate at the lowest part, means at this part. So you will get this relation as the Rayleigh number, which is equal to 4 mass rate upon wetted perimeter of condensate into viscosity of liquid. The latent heat of vaporization HFG is heat released as a unit mass of vapor condensed, as it normally represents the heat transfer per unit mass of condensate found during condensation. However, the condensate in actual condensation process is cooled further to some average temperature between T saturation and T surface, releasing more heat in this process. So condensate has cooled from saturation temperature to surface temperature. So it means this much amount of more heat is transferred to the plate. So we account for the placing this by HFG star, which is modified latent heat of vaporization, where HFG star is equal to heat of HFG plus 0.68 CPL into T saturation minus T surface temperature, where CPL is the specific heat of liquid at average film temperature. We can have a similar argument for vapor that enters the condenser as a superheated vapor, which is temperature Tv, which is higher than saturation temperature. So in this equation, if you add this term, that is Cp, which is specific heat of vapor at average temperature of this, into this, you will get HFG star, which is modified latent heat of vaporization in this case, when your superheated vapor will enter into the tube, and the cooling of heat of condensation in this case is equal to H into AS into T saturation minus TS is equal to mass flow mass into HFG star. Now replace this mass flow rate, which is in the Reynolds number, from this equation in terms of heat transfer and HFG, modified heat of vaporization. So this equation will become this. Now this relation is convenient to use to determine Reynolds number when the condensation heat transfer coefficient or the rate of heat transfer is known. If you know H or Q, you can find the Reynolds number. The properties of liquid should be evaluated at film temperature. The film temperature here is the average temperature of surface and saturation temperature of the liquid. Flow regimes. On the basis of Reynolds number, there are three flow regimes: laminar, wave free. This regime when your Reynolds number is less than 30, and when your ripples will start to form between 30 Reynolds number and 1800, it is called laminar wavy. Then for the fully turbulent flow beyond 1800, it is called turbulent. Heat transfer correlation for film condensation. Take the example of this vertical plate of length L, width is B, in this direction this is your B, and maintained at a constant temperature of surface Ts, that is exposed to vapor at saturation temperature T saturation. The downward direction is taken to be the positive direction with the origin at the top of the plate where the condensation initiates. This is positive direction, and this direction is the y direction along which your thickness of film will grow. The liquid film flows downward due to the influence of gravity. The film thickness is del, and thus the mass rate of the condensate increase with x as a result of continued condensation on the existing film. The heat transfer from the vapor to the plate must occur through the film, which offers resistance to heat transfer. So this is your velocity profile. This is no slip case condition when your velocity is 0. So this is saturation temperature. Now take a small element, this, which is del minus y. So this is small element which is del minus y. Now weight of this element will act downward, which is density of liquid into gravity into volume. Now volume element is equal to this multiply by this multiply by B, which is this here, into the screen. So this is your weight which will act downward. Shear force acting on this surface is equal to, because between wall and liquid due to viscosity, is equal to mu du by dy into B dx. So surface area in case of shear force is equal to B dx. So this B into this element dx into this gray area, plus the buoyancy force which will act on this element in the upward direction due to the vapor. Now we know buoyancy force is equal to the fluid which we had displaced. Now in this case, fluid displaced by this element is equal to vapor. Vapor will cause the buoyancy force into gravity into volume of vapor displaced. Now volume of vapor displaced is equal to the volume of this element, which is dx into b into this, which is del minus y. So this is your buoyancy force. Also you can consider this buoyancy force with the help of this example.
The relation for heat transfer coefficient in film condensation on a vertical plane was developed by Nusselt. So in this case, both the plate and vapor at constant temperature of Ts and T saturated are assumed. The heat across the liquid film is by pure conduction, and the velocity of vapor is low so that it exerts no drag on condensate. Means drag on this side is there is no drag at all. The flow of condensate is laminar and the properties of fluid are constant. The acceleration of the condensate layer is negligible. So the Newton's second law of motion for the volume element shown in this figure can be written as sum of force must be equal to 0, which is mass into acceleration. So in this case you can see this force is acting upward, this force is acting upward. So shear force and buoyancy force is responsible to balance the weight of the drop if the drop has to be stable at this position. So balance these forces. Shear force plus buoyancy force is equal to the weight of the liquid, which is this. So from this you can develop relation for du by dy, which is this. On rearranging, taking this side and rearranging, you will get this relation. So integrate this equation for y is equal to 0, where u is equal to 0. So y is 0 means on the surface of plate where there is no slip condition and velocity of liquid is 0, and y is equal to y at this point where velocity is u. On integering, you will get this equation here, which is the velocity of the fluid with respect to in terms of y. The mass flow rate of condensate at x location where the boundary layer thickness delta is determined from density of liquid uy velocity into dA. So this is your volume flow rate multiplied by density will give you mass flow rate. Now dA is the area of this cross section, which in this case this dy into this area, which is your b here in this case. Flow to the normal to the direction of flow, that area we have to include. So integrate this from y is equal to 0 from the surface to the free stream, which is where y is equal to delta, that is the thickness of this film. So on this you will get the mass flow rate is equal to this. Now take derivative of this mass flow rate with x, which is equal to this. It is clearly represent the change in mass flow rate with respect to dx. That is due to the more vapor being condensed on the film. You can see mass flow rate is less as you go down in the stream. Due to the more condensation of the vapors, the mass flow rate of the fluid will increase as you go in downward direction. The rate of heat transfer from vapor to the plate through the liquid film is simply equal to the heat release as the vapor is condensed. So heat release is equal to HFG into mass of vapor condensed. This is the amount of heat released. And this heat should be transferred through this BDX area by conduction. So this area B and dx, this cross section area of the plate, small area, through conduction the heat is transferred by the condensed liquid, while during condensation the conduction the temperature difference is taken to be saturated minus the temperature of the vapor, which is T, which is this K into area into del T by thickness of the layer. From here you rearranging, you will get dm by dx, which is equal to this. Now we have two relation, one is this relation, second is this. Equate 1015 and 1016, you will get this equation. Now integrating for x is equal to 0 where delta is 0 at the top of plate, 2x is equal to x where del is equal to del at the bottom of the plate. You will get the liquid film thickness at any location. You will get the function of thickness of the liquid film as a function x. This is this. The heat transfer rate from the vapor to the plate at a location x can be expressed as, which is Qx is equal to Hx T saturated minus Ts, which is equal to Kl into T saturated minus Ts by delta.
where Hx is equal to KL by del x. Now Hx is the local heat transfer coefficient at particular distance x on the plate. So put this delta in this equation, you will get local heat transfer coefficient. We more concerned about the average heat transfer coefficient over the entire plate. Now the average heat transfer coefficient is equal to Hx dx integral over 0 to whole length of the plate into 1 by L. You will get 4 by 3 Hx is equal to L, which is this, which is obtained with the simplifying assumption stated earlier, provided good insight on the functional dependence of the condensation heat transfer coefficient. Now in this equation, if you replace this Fg by HFG star, which is your modified latent heat of vaporization, which will include the effect of cooling of liquid below the saturation temperature, and also when you had a superheated vapor, which will also include that effect, which is this here. So you will get the average heat transfer coefficient for laminar film condensation over a vertical flat plate, and this is valid for laminar, which is node number 0 to 30, where symbols are there using meaning, and HFG is already mentioned, modified latent heat of vaporization. Now take this node number, which is equal to 4m by perimeter into viscosity of liquid. Put the value of mass flow rate at perimeter. Perimeter here in this case is equal to L, which in our case is B, this length of this sheet in this direction. So putting in the law number, you will get this equation, and now put out delta, which we had calculated, which is H by K by H, and further this replaces local heat transfer coefficient by vertical overall heat transfer coefficient. You will get Reynolds number is equal to this. So on rearranging, you will get relation for H vertical, which is equal to this, which is valid for laminar, and by in this equation we had neglected this. We had considered that density minus density of vapor is equal to almost density of liquid, means we had neglected density of vapor. So this will become, instead of this, you will become density of liquid. At null unders greater than 30, it is observed that waves form at the liquid vapor interface and the flow is wavy laminar. So this is above null number 30, it is wavy laminar. So waves at the liquid vapor interface increase heat transfer, but the waves also complicate the analysis. So there are experimental studies only. There is a relation developed for vertical wavy laminar flow, which is a function of Reynolds number, gravity and viscosity of liquid. In this case, we have neglected density of vapor for this range of Reynolds number. Reynolds number is also defined in terms of H and HFG. So if you replace H here, you will get this relation. So put this H vertical value in the definition of Reynolds number, and on rearranging, you will get this relation. For turbulent flow on vertical plate, Reynolds number greater than 1800, this relation is available. It is also empirical relation based on the experimental studies. Now put this vertical heat transfer coefficient in turbulent flow into the Reynolds number. You will get terms for relation for Reynolds number and this. Now in this equation, this term is known as dimensionless convective heat transfer coefficient, and when you plot this number versus Reynolds number, so this dotted line represent here, which is in the laminar flow, this equation. This solid line represent for the wavy laminar flow, which is the equation, this equation versus Reynolds number, and this equation represented here, for which your Prandtl number is 1. Now if your Prandtl number vary from 2, 3, 5, so this is the equation here. The relation developed for the vertical plate can be used for inclined plate. Say we had a plate at angle theta, the only you have to do, replace H inclined with vertical heat transfer coefficient and multiply it by cos theta raised to power 1 by 4. So suppose theta is 0 here, it means your plate is vertical, the inclined becomes equal to vertical So as your theta will increase, your heat transfer coefficient will decrease. Vertical tubes. Up to now we had developed relations for plates, convective heat transfer coefficient, but vertical plates can also be used to calculate the average heat transfer coefficient of laminar film condensation on the outer surface of vertical tubes, provided that the tube diameter is large related to the thickness of the liquid film. So this relation which we had developed for this can be used in this case. You can see it can be treated same way if the diameter of the tube is very large and thickness of this film is very small. Horizontal tubes and spheres. Nusselt analysis of film condensation on vertical plates can also be extended to horizontal tubes and sphere. The average heat transfer coefficient for film condensation on the outer surface of horizontal tube is determined to be this, where d is the diameter of horizontal tube. The equation can easily be modified for sphere by placing this constant this by this value. Also the relation of vertical and horizontal is equal to 1.292 d by L raised to power 1 by 4, means vertical in case of vertical tube and in case of horizontal tube, this is the ratio of heat transfer. So when you equate heat transfer in case of vertical tube and heat transfer in case of horizontal tube on the surface, outer surface, this give L is equal to 2.77 d. It means that tube whose length is 2 times its diameter, the average heat transfer coefficient for laminar film condensation will be same whether the tube is positioned horizontally or vertically. And for L greater than 2.77 d, the heat transfer coefficient will be higher in horizontal position. That is the reason in the most case of tubes in condenser are placed horizontally to maximize the condensation heat transfer coefficient on the outer surface of the tube. Now consider a case in which we have horizontal tube banks. So in this case your relation is for convective heat transfer coefficient for a number of tubes is given by this. You can see if you compare this horizontal tube bank with the single tube, which is this, the only difference is instead of a single tube here diameter we have selected ND, or you can say horizontal n number of tubes is equal to 1 by n raised to power 1 by 4 horizontal heat convection coefficient for one tube. Film condensation inside horizontal tubes. So we are used this type of condensation in case of refrigeration and air conditioning applications. However, involve condensation on the inner surface of horizontal or vertical tubes. These applications. So heat transfer analysis of condensation inside these tubes is complicated by the fact it is strongly influenced by the vapor velocity, because vapor is moving with some speed. So condensation and heat transfer will depend on the vapor velocity also. So this is the, at low velocities, this is a reaction recommended by on the experimental basis, and raw number is equal to this. In this case it is for less than 35,000. Dropwise condensation characteristics by countless droplets of varying diameter on the condensing surface instead of continuous liquid film is one of the most effective mechanisms of heat transfer, and extremely large heat transfer coefficients can be achieved with this mechanism. So in dropwise condensation, the small droplets that form at the nucleation sites on the surface grow as a result of continued condensation, collapse into large droplets and slide down when they reach a certain size, clearing the surface and exposing it to vapor. There is no film, liquid film in this case, to resist the heat transfer. So the dropwise condensation, the heat transfer coefficient can be achieved are almost 10 times more than as compared to in the film wise condensation. So dropwise condensation can be promoted with the help of coatings or with the help of surface treating. We can use gold, silver, rhodium, palladium and platinum. The promoter use include various waxes and fatty acids such as oleic, stearic and linoleic acid. They lose their effectiveness after a while, but they will increase the overall heat transfer by promoting the dropwise condensation over the long period of time. So it is all empirical relation, so it is very difficult to predict the exact relation. So one of the most important relation is given for condensation of steam on copper surface is this, which is H dropwise is equal to This is for steam on the copper surface. For this, for temperature between 22 and 100, and this relation for temperature greater than 100 degrees Celsius. So like this video, subscribe this channel, and thank you for watching this video.